This is a 2000 F250 Super Duty with power stroke diesel in it. This truck has 300,000 miles on it. Brake pedal kicking back when you apply the brake and locking the front wheels up. This has the brake pedal bucking. And the front wheels lock up on it. So I'm going to flush the system and change the Hydro Boost. First thing I want to do to get access to the cooler in the front end for the power steering unit, I'll take these plastic caps out of this tar paper stuff. Underneath the radiator, and I'm going to slide the hose off of the cooler on the bottom and put some other hoses on it into a drain pan. If you got a filter, you can stick it in now and just start it up and pump the brake pedal 20-25 times and turn the steering back and forth 5 or 6 times while it's running. Filter the fluid. I'm just going to replace this with new. Went up and took the power steering pump reservoir cap off and filled the reservoir full of Reconnecting transmission fluid. I reconnected the cooler line. I'm going to go up and fill the reservoir full of Reconnecting fluid again and start the truck and pump the brake a few times and turn the steering wheel left or right. Make sure your funnel's clean. I'll do this 4 or 5 times till I get some good clean fluid out of it. Fluid's pretty dark. And I'll pour a little fresh through it before I hook the hose back up from the pump reservoir. And you might jack the front wheels off the ground some if you're sitting on blacktops. This thing is heavy and it'll probably tear the blacktop up, turn the wheels back and forth. The Hydro Boost didn't work until it gets the air out of it. It's kind of spongy. The fluid's looking pretty good. Been about almost half gallon put through it. I'm going to go ahead and just let that finish draining. I'll start work on other stuff. I'm going to slip the cap back on the power steering pump to keep crap out of it. Go ahead and take this air cleaner housing out. And this driver's side battery. I loosened the hose clamp midway's point on the air cleaner tube and did the snaps holding it on. And took the battery cables loose and snap this top. And this 5/16 battery hold down. And finally, these 4 10mm underneath the battery, holding the cover down. I'll slide that forward far enough to get a hold of that air temperature sensor in the back. Untwist it out of there, I guess. an opportune time to clean this thing out. Got a hole now. I'm going to do the recall on that pressure transducer. If your transducer is still good, feel free to unhook it at any time. Is this one already caught on fire? There's a plug-in melted on it. I'm going to flip this brake fluid level switch. Push up on the center and pull out on it. I used a 14mm socket on the master cylinder nuts with a 13mm backup on the head to remove these two master cylinder holding bolts, mounting bolts. Took an 18mm line wrench and broke the passenger side pressure line loose. I sprayed all that down with brake cleaners to clean it up a little bit. Really don't want any dirt getting in the system. And I'll just walk the bracket forward. It holds the lines. That one's shoved down in there quite a bit. It'll come out of there. Get it out of the way and then break the other 18mm loose. Walk the bracket forward. Then take a pair of pliers and loosen the return line hose clamp. Be sure and keep the dirt out of your lines. Cap them or put them somewhere where they're not going to get in the dirt. Just gotta walk these up out of there. They're pressed down into a hole with a rubber seal around them, like a O-ring. And just prop the master cylinder up on the fuse box. You need more access to pry that line out. It's in there pretty good. And some fluid will be coming out of it. Most of these pressure lines will need new O-rings put on the end of it. Typically. Don't get these lines mixed up or you'll have a problem with the hydro boost working. Okay, I've moved to the inside of the truck. I'll take these screws and pop this knee panel loose. On the driver's side, the brake arm is a locking pin. You just take a screwdriver and get in the middle of it, push against the head of it, push it up out of there and unlock it. It's a pretty basic thing. Screwdriver in the middle of it, push up on it, and it pushes that head aside and lets it come up out of there. And slip that arm off there. And the brake switch assembly. Just be careful with the workings. Slip that arm off. Okay, it's free from the brake pedal. Now there's 4 13mm headed nuts. Take them loose. And remove them. I'm using a regular length 3/8 extension with a wobbler head to get at it, but you can get at it with about anything. That's not bad. And I took 3 out, leaving one top one in just in case this thing fell forward. But it's staying put, so I'm going to go ahead and take the 4th nut loose and off. The arm's unhooked from the brake pedal. I'm going to go outside and pull this hydro booster through the firewall and out of it. Get ready for the other one. Make sure your lines are parted, don't get them mixed up. Like that. It's out of there. Opted to go with a lower mileage used one. And put some new O-rings on the factory lines. Be sure not to get these lines mixed up. And clean your master cylinder mounting surfaces off. Any scale, check it for leaking. These O-rings are about like an 8mm by 2mm, or a number 11. Seems closest to it. So I'll change 2 of those. Just pay attention that there's a step on the right side of this unit, looking down at it. This accumulator deal is on the left side, and the step's way down here. And then on the right side, there's a return lines pointing out of. This step's up close to the brake arm pin. And the new O-rings are installed. It's time to fish it back in the hole, kind of steer it to the right to get it around that brake arm pin. It's a little bit irritating to get it started back in there. Once you get in far enough where you can get one nut on it, put the nut and just thread it down a couple of threads, and then wiggle the rest of it around until it drops in. There's a bracket that's kind of flopping around in there, a reinforcement bracket, and it's hanging it up a little bit. But it'll go now. I'm taking scrape the crust off from this master cylinder mount here too. These 4 nuts tighten down to 18, not more than 20 foot-pounds, evenly. Slip your brake switch back over the arm, then slide it onto the pin. The retaining pin back in with the lock pointing down. And the best way to get that pin is over top of the hood release and look at it from the door opening. Push it in the hole and just pull it down until it locks in. And be there permanently. I left the old fittings in so I could keep the dirt out of the workings. I'll remove them and start sliding this master cylinder back to them. Put some fresh merc fluid on the end of the lines and got them threaded down in there, but not tightened down yet. So they're still floating. I'm going to go ahead and slip the master cylinder on and put these brackets over top of the master cylinder and start applying the nuts to mount the master cylinder. Be sure you didn't get your lines crossed. And tighten the master cylinder mounting nuts down to 20 foot-pounds. And go ahead and tighten the line nuts up on the pressure lines to about 24 foot-pounds. Plug the brake fluid level switch back in and the pressure transducer plug in. Hook your return line up at any time for the booster. Going down underneath and hook the cooler hose back up. Put the clamp back on it. And I'll go ahead and fill the reservoir 90% up with merc transmission fluid, multi-purpose transmission fluid, and put the cap back on it. I'll temporarily set the battery down in it so I can keep an eye on the fluid level. I'm going to start it up and keep the fluid full in the reservoir. Check the system for any fluid leaks around any of the lines and the reservoir level. Pump the brake pedal and turn the steering wheel till the air bleed out of it. Check the cooler for leaks. Just apply it light a few times. Put the battery tray and air box back in it, and the trim panel back on the inside. It should be good to go if you don't have any leaks. Make sure you have a full brake pedal before you move the truck, and make sure your brake lights work in the back after you're done.